Hi everyone, and welcome to the Knit Shift episode 95. My name is Laura and today is Tuesday, October 10th? Yes, 2017. Welcome. Thank you so much for checking out my podcast. If you're new here, this is a knitting podcast where I talk about yarn and knitting and my life in Northern Virginia near Washington, D.C. I'm a journalist. Wearing a shirt of my employer today, actually. I got this when I started a couple months ago. I work nights, hence the knit shift. Although if you're new here, I'm glad you stopped by. I'm glad everyone stopped by. Really, my life motto is the same of my dog, Gracie, who is asleep behind me on the couch. I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy you guys are here. To sit and get to talk to you guys about knitting is a wonderful thing. So, yeah. Let's get to it, shall we? Administrative stuff. I am on Instagram as Laura Mahalski. I am on Ravelry as Yarnstormer. We do have a group for the podcast over under the groups tab on Ravelry. If you search for the Knit Shift, you will find us. It's been pretty quiet over there lately, mostly because I have not had a knit along going in many months. Things were a bit tumultuous over the past 9 months or so of 2017. But I'm really hoping that maybe early next year we can have a new knit along. Maybe we'll even have a knit along that goes all year long. We'll see. I just don't know. So thankfully there's lots of time to think about it and plan it out. And yeah, it'll be great. Show notes can be found at theknitshift.com. This episode is available on iTunes and YouTube and will be embedded in the show notes at theknitshift.com. So today I have a few things to share with you. I have 3 works in progress, no finish objects, no yarns, no stash enhancement to share with you, and I have a little bit of makeup chat at the very end of the episode. So, and there'll be a little bit of random life chat going on too, to tell you what I've been up to. So let us get to the knitting, shall we? First things first, I'm gonna go with the socks first. Even though I have not been knitting on my socks as much, I'm gonna show you them just the same. So, what is today? Tuesday. A week ago Sunday, Josh and I had our first big date in quite some time, and I'll talk more about it later. We had a really nice day doing touristy things in Washington, D.C. and going to a baseball game, but I brought knitting, of course. And so when I filmed last time, I wanted to get this sock above the heel turn. I was right here on the stitch marker. Sure enough, I have worked up the foot, I have done the heel turn, and I am carrying on up the leg now. So I have knit, gosh, I've knit 7 or 8 stitches in the past 2 weeks on this sock. You know, even when you discount the heel, I've knit quite a bit. This is a sock for my dad for Christmas. This is Langja Wool Action. I don't know the colorway, but they generally use numbers instead of names for their colorways. So it's this lovely self-striping mottled gray with stripes of burgundy and orange, and then my favorite is the blue, green, brown stripe right here. I really love that, and I love how the camera is picking it up. I am knitting these on size 1 carbons. Unfortunately, I love the needles. This is my first time using carbons. They've got a great point, but already it's probably going to be next to impossible to see, but the lettering on the black needle that says US 1 is already wearing off. But the nice thing is, way down here at the base on the silver, it says US 1. I think it's probably a little hard to read, but it is right there, I promise. So the nice thing about Lang is they include a little spool of reinforcement thread to use with your heel. This is very hardy wool nylon. It's a classic German sock yarn, but I like that they include this reinforcement thread that matches the yarn you're knitting with, and it ends up making the heel extra strong. So I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I did use the reinforcement thread, so it's a little hard to see. It doesn't look totally different from the rest of the sock, but if you look closely, you can see it is a bit more mottled in there on the heel flap. You know, it's impossible to make to make it match, you know, the striping on the thread match exactly where it is on the ball of yarn. I don't even know if it is an exact match. You know, they're very similar colors. I don't know that it's meant to match it completely, but it is nice. It's a very thin thread that you hold with the sock yarn, and it just adds a little nylon reinforcement, which I appreciate. So these are my usual toe up socks. For my dad, I think this is a 68 or 72 stitch sock. I have it written down somewhere, but I don't remember. He has a big feet, not just big long, but big around. So I usually make his socks a little bigger. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. I have not been knitting on this because I did knit it so much a week ago Sunday. I kind of set it aside. It is a Christmas gift, so I do have to get going on it, but I've been knitting something else that's taken a bit of my time. I also have been knitting on a pair of socks for a cousin. I mentioned last time that these were going to be for me, but I decided in the end to give them to my cousin because she just kind of needs a pick-me-up. And this is in the middle of a row, so let me just get the knit to the end. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and of course whenever they call your name back, and if you're in the middle of a row, it's kind of impossible to say, oh, just give me like a minute to finish this row. You know, I don't want to be that guy. So I was able to split right in the middle. Again, I was a bad girl and I did not put a progress keeper in to show where I was last week, but I was somewhere on the leg of this sock. And this is the second sock. I'm already done with the first, and I am about 3 rows away from starting the ribbing. So really excited about that. Let me hold that down so you can see just how much I have left. So yeah, this is opal sock yarn. It's a wool nylon blend. Obviously it's a rainbow self-striping yarn. Really pretty. I will have a little bit left over, and I'm gonna save this, I think, for heels or toes for future socks that I think would be really fun. So I'd love to have these finished in the next week or two. I'd love to finish them before Rhinebeck, but because I'm also knitting a Rhinebeck deadline knit, I just don't know if that's gonna happen. But if I had a couple hours to spare, I would knock this sock out and be done with it. But the thing that has been keeping all of my time this week has been my Rhinebeck shawl. I have knit on this bonkers over the past 2 weeks. You might remember I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to record every 2 weeks now instead of every week. It works better for my schedule, for my time that I take to film and edit the podcast. It does take me, you know, an hour to get everything set up and to record, and then it takes me a few hours to edit, so it is much better for me to do it every other week in terms of managing my time. But I have not knit on this at all today, and the minute I'm done with this, recording this, I am gonna sit down and work on this a little while and then eventually edit the podcast because I'm really motivated to finish this. So I'm knitting the Vertices Unite shawl by Stephen West. I started this back in June before a family get-together for a funeral for my dad's aunt. I've brought it on the Metro over the past couple weeks, which I've told myself I really don't want to bring big projects because they take up a lot of space in my backpack. And also, if you end up sitting next to someone, or I should say if someone ends up sitting next to me, and I say that for that reason, for a real reason, which I'll get to in a second. It's just easier to have just a sock, so you know you're not flipping the shawl over. It takes too much space. The nice thing about my commute is I live at the very end of a metro line, so when I get on the train, no one else is on it. I have the pick of the litter when it comes to seats. And because I work evenings, I often commute at a point where the trains don't get too crowded going into DC, but then I also come home late at night, and again, practically no one's on the train. I get both seats to myself. It works out great. So in general, it has not been a problem, but it has been a problem in that it has been ridiculously, unseasonably warm over the past 8 days or so. Josh and I had really nice weather for our big day adventure, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but it quickly got up to 80 some degrees, and this is a tangent, I know. They turned off the air conditioning at our apartment complex in anticipation of switching to heat for the fall. They just kind of have to do it system-wide because there's like, you know, 300 you know, multiple buildings and multiple units in each building, probably like 300 some units. So they just pick a date arbitrarily and they turn it off. So they did it about a week ago, and it was like 60 degrees last weekend. It was great, it was beautiful, it was wonderful. The AC did not run at all. But then it got really humid and the tropical storm remnants kind of came through, and it was just sticky and gross. And actually this past Sunday, 2 days ago, was the sultriest October day on record for Washington, D.C. And I was like, great, of course it's record high heat, and they turned off the AC, and we can only open so many windows here. We don't get a ton of airflow. You know, we have a screen door in the front door, which is nice, but we had the ceiling fan, you know, there's a ceiling fan right there. We had a ceiling fan in the bedroom. They were going nonstop, but it was still above 80 degrees in here, and we were miserable. And I brought this, you know, I would be sitting and knitting on the couch under the ceiling fan, so it really wasn't as bad when you were just sitting still, but if you're puttering around, it gets hot very easily. So I was like, this is dedication to knitting, Josh, because if I, oops, it just fell. I was like, if I, you know, it's so damn hot in here, but I have to finish this. I have to finish this for Rhinebeck. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this weather, but I have to finish this. I was so conflicted. So it's also been warm on the metro because it's been so hot. So anyway, all of this is a long way of saying I am nearly done with this shawl. It is a garter stitch shawl. It's a paid for pattern by Stephen West. I'm knitting the large size, and it is already taller than me. So that gives you a little context of how big it is. Since we last spoke, I was partway through the 3rd section last time we spoke. I had a crisis about right after I finished recording 2 weeks ago. I was on section 3, which is this section here, this white speckly section. I was using another yarn 2 weeks ago. You guys may or may not remember that. It was gray with like blue and brown speckles, and it was spun right round, and the colorway Dreamcatcher. It's beautiful yarn, but I never felt like it quite meshed with the others. And I know that part of Stephen West's whole shtick or vibe or whatever is, you know, be crazy with color. I just felt like this wasn't crazy enough. It was just different enough that it just seemed like it stuck out, if that makes sense. It wasn't one of those, oh, this is so weird it works things. It just looked weird. So I dropped a stitch near the edging with the first section here. I dropped a stitch, and then all of the stitches started coming out along the edging. So all of this knitting stayed, but then these edge stitches were coming apart, and I had to rip the whole thing out. And I was probably, let me see, you start down here and you increase, you know, it's on the bias, and then once you get to the edging up here, you just keep going straight across on the bias. I was probably between my fingers, you know, between here and here, I had all of that done, which is not a small amount of knitting, and I had to rip it all out. So I went to the stash. I took it as I was so mad, but I was like, you have to rip it out. I tried to salvage it, it didn't work, so I ripped it out. I looked at my stash and I found this skein of Lemonade Shop in Pixie Sticks. And this was a recent addition to the stash. I bought it on Labor Day at my local yarn shop, Fiber Space, and it's a white with just tiny flecks of speckles. And it really is a skein of white yarn, and then there was like a flash of rainbow on it. So I was like, I think this will work. It's not gray, but I like that it's neutral and speckled, and it was really fun to knit with, and I loved knitting with it, and it's super soft, I say as I awkwardly pat it held up against me. It's really, really soft. So I'm really happy with it. So I've knit all of section 3, which, let me back up. You can see how big it is. This took almost it took more than half, probably 3/4 of the skein. I knit section 4, which might be my favorite section on the thing. This is Lammy Toes Moon Pie Merino in the colorway Rebel Girl. And I was so excited to get to this because it was a solid section, and just like the 3rd section was with the pixie stick from Lemonade Shop. But I just love this colorway. Look at all of these shades that are in there. I just think it's so stunning. The dyer, Amanda, is so talented, and I just adore this yarn. And so this is like a triangle, like a short row section. So that's section 4. I knit that this week. I mean, literally, I've knit all of sections 3, 4, and 5 in the past 6 or 7 days. I knocked this out in a day. I knocked this out in less than a day. This is section 5. This purple is Ba Yarns La Jolla, which is a merino nylon blend, and it's the colorway Garnet, and it's purple. And this stripy speckly that it is working with is Hedgehog Fibers Minx. It's a twist sock. It was a club colorway, and you will, it's also used in the first section here. So here it is striped with a solid gray. So that's a better, easier to read view of what Minx looks like. So Minx is there. Rebel Girl is, in fact, I'll just get the cakes and show you. So this involves 5 skeins of fingering weight yarn. And now that they're all kind of floppy, it's a little easier to show you. So here are my colorways. The only one I have not mentioned by name is this gray color, and that is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock. I don't remember the name, but it'll be in the show notes. And the final section is just knit out of the Sweet Georgia. It's one more little short row action piece. So after that, the body is done, and I just have to do the edging. And the pattern calls for the color, I don't remember, it's, you know, it calls the colors A, B, C, D, and E. So this will be, I think, this is the one called for, and this will be Rebel Girl around the edges, which I'm super stoked for because I love this yarn so much. There are people walking by my apartment complex, walking their dogs, and I wonder if they can see me because I have the windows open, and why is this girl talking to her computer? That's really weird. Anyway, so it's using quite a bit of yarn. This is a great stash buster. I love it. I'm knitting, the pattern comes in 2 sizes. It's very easy to understand. It's a challenge if you're pretty new to knitting, but it's quite logical and thoughtfully put together, I would say. So it's definitely worth considering if you are new to shawl knitting and you want to try something different. So yeah, so once we finish here, I'm gonna get back. Oh, I didn't really show you section 6, but I've just started, this is the back side. I've just started section 6, which will be short rows. So that should not take, if I really focus on it tonight, I can knock that out. And then if I can do the edging by Friday, I can block it Saturday, Sunday, and it'll be ready for me to leave for Rhinebeck next Thursday. So cross your fingers that I get it done. We'll see. And that is it for my knitting. It's been a very productive 2 weeks, as I've said in previous episodes. Since I moved, I do take the Metro to work 3 or 4 days a week, and it gives me a good 45 minutes of knitting each way, which I love. So my sock knitting, I'm looking forward to 2018 because I think I have a real chance of getting back to knitting a pair a month, thanks to my time on the train. So stay tuned for that. I do have Christmas knitting to pick up again. I have the socks I'm knitting for my dad. This is the first Christmas in almost a decade where I have not knit socks for my entire family. I feel really sad about that. It's kind of a tradition, but I have a stocking that I'm knitting for my niece, Olivia. She's 7 months old as of yesterday, and super sweet, and I miss her so much, even though I just saw her a few weeks ago. I'm knitting her Christmas stocking, and it's about halfway done, so when I finish this shawl and when I finish some of these socks, my new project when I'm at home watching TV will be her stocking, because I can't do color work on the train, definitely not. So I'll be picking that up in the hopes of finishing that before Thanksgiving or so I can get it mailed over to her parents. So yeah, I think that brings me to odds and ends chat. So let me have a sip of water and we will do that. And if you don't want to hear about my life, I understand. I'll be sad, but I understand. So take care and I'll see you soon. I mentioned that Josh and I had a really fun adventure a week ago Sunday. He moved up here officially as of Saturday, October 1st, basically. So I am so thrilled. He's been going between Norfolk and here, working from here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, working from Norfolk in the office Monday, Tuesday. Fall is another busy time because he's an accountant, so he's working 7 days a week right now. So he studied for his CPA tests. The CPA exam, which is a certification, is a 4-part exam. It's 4 different tests that add up to getting your CPA. It's very difficult. Not a lot of people pass it all 4 parts on the first try. Sure enough, he does have to retake 2. So all this summer he was studying for the initial go round of all 4 exams. So that was this summer. Basically, the long and the short of it is we have not had a chance to spend a day together just hanging out or like going on a date probably since like January. You know, we've had stuff here and there where like maybe we'll get together after work, or I might have randomly worked a day shift at my old job. We'd be able to go see a movie at night, but we haven't had like a day to go have an adventure in like 9 months. So this was really long overdue. He had to pull some strings to not even have to work on Sunday. So I really wanted to go to the National Zoo. I had never been there. It's a really nice part of Washington, D.C. You know, they have pandas, they have all sorts of animals, and since it is a Smithsonian institution, it is free. So everything I read online said the pandas are usually more active in the morning. We took the metro in, and the neighborhood it's in is called Woodley Park, and it's kind of in northwest Washington, D.C. Hey guys, sorry about that. My battery died in the middle of talking about the zoo. So it's a beautiful old neighborhood. We went to get bagels first, and then we went into the zoo, and it was gorgeous out. It was about 45, 50 degrees. I was able to wear leggings under my skirt, which, you know, makes every knitter happy. Then we went to visit the pandas. I did not remember how many pandas they had. I knew there were definitely 2. I wasn't sure if there was a 3rd. So we were wandering around outside, and we saw 2 pandas in the yard from about, I don't know, 100, 150 yards. We wandered inside the panda exhibit. The pandas were sleeping. They weren't really doing much from far away. So we were like, well, let's just go inside and learn about pandas. Well, we get inside, and surprise, surprise, there is a 3rd panda, and he or she is literally sleeping 10 feet away from us in an exhibit. And he was sleeping like belly down on a rock. I'm just gonna say he for ease of the story. And he had like one paw under his chin, and the other was hanging on the other side of the rock. And he was so still, I thought he was a stuffed panda until like every 30 seconds or so, he like moved his paw. So it was great because you couldn't see it coming. So, you know, you just kind of show up and boom, there's this panda, and all these parents and little kids were, you know, walking through and reading the signs, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, little Johnny, there's a panda right there, you know, that kind of thing. So it was really, really cute, and Josh and I took a selfie in front of the panda. And then we watched the panda cam operator. You know, the Smithsonian, the zoo's website does a panda cam, which is very popular online, and someone has to operate it and like change the view and follow them around and all that. So we watched the panda cam lady running the show, and we watched on the panda cam one of the outside pandas that had come in. He had sat down at a table and looked like a drunk guy passed out at the bar. He was just like, I think his paws were like this, and he was just like, he was just passed the heck out. And Josh and I were like, man, you can't take that guy anywhere. You know how old Joey gets, you know, 1 beer on him, woo, he's asleep. So it was kind of hilarious to joke about. So the zoo was great. We got to see elephants eating hay right up close. I mean, like 5 feet in front of us, which was so cool. It was just really nice. I hadn't been to a zoo in a really long time, and it made me think that it would be really fun to bring my niece to the zoo in a few years when she's a little bit older. So after that, we took the train back to DuPont Circle, which is just a few metro stops away from the zoo, and we went for ramen at a restaurant I had eaten at a few weeks ago. The day I filmed a little vlog and you guys came with me on the train, that was my destination. This restaurant is called Oki Bowl, and they have really good food. So we ate there, it was delicious, good food on a cold day. And then we went to the Nationals game. The Nationals were hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is my hometown team, and it was the closing game of the regular season. Of course, the Nationals are in the playoffs, not doing too well right now. They're down with only 1 chance left, but it was the last regular season game for, I believe, both teams, because the Pirates, God love them, they rarely make the playoffs. So it was a really nice day for a game. I had splurged on some good seats, but I got them through StubHub, so it was a little cheaper, you know, because someone was looking to offload their tickets, but they were in the front row of a 200 level section, which was so nice. And we just really enjoyed the game and had some snacks. And then the game was taking forever to finish. The first few innings just took forever. So we walked over to Blue Jacket, which is a bar, a brewery, right there near the National Stadium. And if you're not familiar, the National Stadium is in the southeast part of DC. So we were really all over. You know, we had been up in Northwest DC, and then we went down to Southeast for the game. So we really, you know, got around. In fact, by the end of the day, my Fitbit said I had walked like 9 miles, like 20,000 steps. So that was pretty great. So yeah, it was a really long, really busy, very tiring day, but it was so nice. And I got a ton of knitting done on my dad's sock for Christmas. And that was our big adventure. Oh yeah, so next week is Rhinebeck. I'm staying in a house with some friends. I think there's about a dozen of us in the house. I've been baking this week. I'm freezing cookies to take with us. I have been preparing yarn. We're gonna do a stash swap, and so I went through my stash before I filmed, before I'm filming today, and I found a ton of yarn to give away, like an entire reusable grocery store bag, like one of the big totes that they sell at TJ Maxx. I'm not messing around. So I was like, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna go through my stash. I keep a spreadsheet of my stash and what's coming in, what's coming out, and I'm gonna update it because I had not updated it since the move, and I've bought some things, but I've also used up some things since then. So let me look at my phone because I did the math, and I'm happy to say that if you include, well, first off, I'm giving away about 6,300 yards of yarn, which is not a small amount of yarn. That includes a sweater's quantity of worsted weight and a lot of sock yarn that I just know I'm not gonna use. So that's very exciting. So when you total it up, I have, with what I'm giving away in the swap and what I've used up this year and what I've given as gifts, I have lost almost 12,000 skeins of yarn have left the stash this year, which is great. It's 11,954. However, I've still brought in more than that. I've brought in 14,000, almost 14,900 skeins. I'm sorry, 14,900 yards of yarn. That's still a net gain of about 3,000 yards, which is disappointing because I haven't even gotten to Rhinebeck yet, and you know I'm coming home with some yarn from Rhinebeck. And whatever this swap yields, but I'm gonna be really choosy about the swap and only get stuff that I really want. I've been reading that stash book by Clara Parks, and it's getting me thinking about my stash. Also, when I moved here, the stash was one thing I did not really cull and think about, like getting rid of stuff. So I am eager to pare it down a little bit. I have that luxury. Maybe I'll be doing some more frequent yarn giveaways, or you know, going through my stash for podcast prizes instead of buying something new. I already have set aside a skein of Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed for a podcast giveaway at some point, and I'm gonna go through and find some more, no doubt. And that brings us to makeup chat, because I bought 2 lipsticks. I'm wearing one of them. I did a little order on Sephora because they had the Kat Von D Studded Kiss lipstick on sale. Instead of $21, it was $12 a piece. And I have never tried her lipsticks, and I thought, let's do this. This is a good time for it. So I got 2. They're in these great cases. So I got Underage Red, which is a name I don't love. It smells so good. Also, all of their products are not, you know, no animals are used. They're vegan, cruelty-free. I know that's really important to Kat Von D. Really like it. Boy, I need to put lotion on these hands. They are dry as heck. So that's the first one, and I'm wearing the other one. This is Kat Von D Studded Lipstick in Prayer. It's darker than I usually go. Also, shout out to this that just showed up before I podcast today. It's a nice brown burgundy, which is not a color I would normally go for, but I really like it. You do have to apply it very carefully or it's gonna get all over your face. I'm bad about using any sort of primer, or I don't use lip liner, but I really like it. Awkwardly smiling on camera. so that was a treat. I do love lipstick, and I'm wearing serum and moisturizer. It's my day off. Honestly, this is all I ever wear. I'm pretty lucky to have pretty evenly toned skin, and I'm trying to be better about making sure I wear my serum and moisturizer every day, because I can tell a difference when I do. My skin looks happier and, you know, plusher and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, aging, man, get ya. I think that's everything for today. I am going to wrap this up, and I'm gonna go do a little more baking, and then I will edit this podcast and try and get it online tonight. So take care. When I see you next, it will be after Rhinebeck. I am super stoked for Rhinebeck. Again, if you go and you see me and you know me, please say hi. I know it's hard to approach strangers, but I would love to see you and say hello, and maybe even give you a hug if you are a hugger, because I tend to be. So please do stop and say hello. I would love to see you. I probably won't have my act together to like have little podcast prizes, but I will try and bring some knit shift pins if I can find them. And if you stop me, I'll give you a pin. How about that as an incentive to stop me and say hello? Even if you have a pin already, like if you want a prize sometime, I don't care. You can have another one. Go for it. All right, guys. Take care. I will see you soon. Until then, happy knitting, happy doing all the things that make you happy. Bye. I stopped filming 25 seconds ago, and I have been blessed with massive hiccups. There it is. Yes, see? Thank God that didn't happen when I was filming. Okay, bye, for real this time.